One commonly used service of the Nutanix ecosystem is the Acropolis Hypervisor, and we can protect that service via our DPX vPlus software as well. So here you can see that I'm logged into my Prism Central server and I am under the infrastructure VMs, which is showing me all the VMs that are being hosted by Acropolis. Now, in order to protect it and back up these VMs to my object storage destination running on Nutanix objects, I can just scan in the hypervisor and virtual infrastructure into my vPlus application. And here within my vPlus dashboard, I can go under the virtual environment section and add a new virtualization provider of type Nutanix Prism. So I click on the create button over here on the right hand side and then scan down and select Nutanix Prism as the virtualization provider that I want to add into vPlus. And this is just like logging into my Prism element or central servers. I'm just going to provide the URL, username, and password that I can use to connect to that Prism element server, and then specify some other options down here. We can take a look at a Prism element server that I had added previously, and the URL here is going to be of a specific format. Of course, this is going to contain the login information, but it's going to be suffixed with Nutanix/v3 here, and I can go ahead and edit this hypervisor just to show you the configuration and what you would need to set on that hypervisor itself. Once set, I can do an inventory synchronization here on the right hand side just by clicking the button, which will allow me to query the Acropolis hypervisor and capture all the VM instances that are being hosted by Nutanix. So once the inventory synchronization completes here, I can go into the virtual environments instances and I should be able to see all the VMs within my vPlus database here, and these should correspond to the VMs that are located within my Acropolis hypervisor on the Nutanix screen as well. So now let's go ahead and run a backup, and in order to run a backup of one of these VMs here, I'll just need to define a backup policy, and backup policy just tells vPlus how to backup a server, which backup destination to use when backing up that server, as well as other options that you can set on the policy like schedule, etc. So here I can just click create to create a new backup policy, provide my backup policy a name. I can assign which virtual environments I want to back up. In this case, the virtual environment is a VM here, and then define the destination where I would like to back that up to. And this is going to be just your object storage destination that you would have created in the previous step, pointing to Nutanix object storage here. So what I have is a backup policy that I've created previously here, and this is just backing up my junk box. And from a scheduling or options perspective, I have my options listed here. I have the virtual environments, the VMs that I want to have backed up selected. I can follow a certain backup process, what I would like to do during that backup. Under rules here is where I would define retention, where I define the backup policy, as well as the backup schedule. So in the case of Nutanix backups and VMs, I can run a combination of full and incremental backups on days that I specify here. So let's go ahead and create that schedule. I have that schedule or backup policy saved. I could trigger the backup ad hoc as well just by going into my virtual environment instances here and then over on the right hand side selecting the backup icon to perform that backup. It's going to ask me how I would like to run the backup, what time window I would like it to start in, how many retries, and what priority I'd like to set. So let's go ahead and run that backup here. And while that backup is running, what I've done is I've already completed a backup listed down here, so you can see that that backup has completed of my jump box, and the backup will go through two separate stages. It'll go through an export stage in which the backup will be exported out to the vPlus node, and then it'll go through a store phase in which the node will write that backup to the object storage location I specified, and then some cleanup phases at the very end here. So we're going to let this backup finish, and then we're going to jump into restoring a VM. So now that the backup job is complete of my jump box, I can go in and issue a restore for that machine. And what I can do is one of two restores here. I can do a full VM instance restore in which I can restore the entire VM, or I can do a mount restore in which I can mount the virtual disk to a node, a vPlus node in my enterprise. So if I click on the restore button here, this is going to allow me to either restore to the hypervisor manager or restore to a node. In this case, I want to restore back to a hypervisor manager here in my Nutanix Acropolis server or Nutanix Prism server, and I can select a cluster to import it to. I can change the name of the virtual environment, for example, rename it with a dash suffix of restored, and click next here, and just select the storage I want to import that virtual disk into, select the networking that I would like for this VM to use, and other advanced operations such as deleting the VM if it already exists or powering on the VM after the restore completes. So on the summary page, these are the parameters I had selected previously, and I'll just need to click that restore button. So after finishing the restore here, I can see that my restore job has completed. Restore is going to work in the same manner as backup, only in the reverse direction. So in this case, we are restoring the data from object storage, my Nutanix object storage, and moving that disk image file to my vPlus node. And then we're going to import that information into the hypervisor here. So if I go back to my Prism Central UI, I can see that the jump box has been restored with the parameters that I had selected in my restore job definition. So with that said, let's go and check out the mount restore, which is similar in nature, only this time we're just mounting the snapshot image to a vPlus node here. In this case, I can choose the backup instance that I want to run a mount from and choose the vPlus node that I want to mount it to. So we can specify which file systems we want to mount. We can share the drives over iSCSI or mount the file systems automatically, and just simply click on the mount button listed here. And once the mount restore has finished, it is going to display within the vPlus user interface under the executions console here, and you can see that it restored the data from the object storage and then mounted that to my vPlus node.